Hi guys, today on the Reno Q&A Show I've got Alexi from Real Estate. He's an expert in the game of real estate, land, and we've got lots of questions fired at him about when to extend, when to knock down and rebuild, or when possibly to sell. Alexi's been very experienced in this game for a long time, so tune in, lots of good content and lots of good answers for you. Hey guys, today on the Reno Q&A Show, I'm at Real Estate. We're actually in the basement of Alexi Broikos' office. Alexi, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you again.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. So Alexi has a very successful business here in South Australia. He's been in the real estate game for quite some time. We are getting lots of questions coming on the Monsta Pro go-to site about renovations that connect to real estate questions, and we thought no better than have Alexi answer some of those questions because he's the expert in the game, and we like to get a third party to give some value to our followers. So Alexi, we've had a question come through from the Gold Coast where there's a couple that have got an existing home, they've planned to do an extension. They know that they've got a nice bit of backyard at the moment. They don't know whether they've got the plans that potentially in the next 7 to 10 years they're going to sell and move on. However, at this point in time, they're not sure whether they should do that extension and go upwards and retain the backyard, so doing a second story addition, or do they encroach on the backyard and extend outwards with some rooms that way, and what that might do with the potential value later on. Is there more value in having that backyard space and having a two-story? And I thought that would be a perfect one for someone like yourself that is always assessing homes, and Gold Coast is a growing area, it's still expanding population-wise. What are your thoughts with that?
I guess if initial thought is you go up or out, yes, good question. If you're creating a bigger house or more of a family home, you know, increasing from 2 or 3 bedrooms to 4 or 5, then I guess you've got to be conscious of maybe allowing some yard still, or retaining some yard.
Does that depend on the suburb where you're in, if it's like a family?
Probably, yeah.
Suburb, yeah.
I mean, if you're building a family home or you're building a big sized home, then I guess you do want to have some yard for the children or for the extended family that might be there, or a pool or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I guess going up or going out, there is a difference maybe in cost. So I guess you've got to work out what your costs are to build up, and first of all, whether you can do it. Yeah. Structurally, So get an engineer in, get someone to assess it.
Expert, as always.
So you get a builder in, get a quote to go up, and then get a design done maybe to go out. But yeah, sometimes you build a massive home and you've got not much yard left, and the family says, yeah, I want a 5-bedroom house and I want 3 living areas and all that sort of stuff. And then they walk out the backyard and there's a postage stamp. And then they say, yeah, I've got a big family home, but I do want some yard.
So it feels like a townhouse then.
Correct. And then I recommend they do some research on the end product.
Yeah. So in your experience, what percentage difference would the cost be if they were going to go, if they, let's say structurally it's sound enough, they get an engineer in and a builder and they could go up, the percentage difference in a cost of a renovation or an extension that way versus going outwards for an estate, but we're talking 10 to 20% difference in the building cost?
Yeah, there is a difference. Normally it is more expensive to go up, but then again it depends on each home. Depends on what sort of style of home it is, depends on whether it's able to do it more effectively on that particular one than a different one.
So from what I've seen in the Gold Coast, I mean, it's not one of those areas where, like some of the traditional suburbs of Australia, where it's only single story. So, you know, I think, not we're talking multi-story, but 2-story homes are quite common in those areas. So if they can, I'm getting the impression from what they've shown us, is if they can do that, would the 2-story then, if they could afford it, do you think in that 10-year period they'd get that return? Well, let's say it is an extra 10 to 20% on the building cost.
I think it would still be fine.
Yeah.
And if you've got a 10-year period, you've got 10 years to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
So there is some personal benefit more so than just a pure flip, or a pure profit-making exercise.
So the next step on, if we're talking about, I mean, I'm sensing that I'd probably go up if that was the case. But if you were going to go that way, then what could they do additional to that backyard to even give it greater value? In that 10 year, would a swimming pool give you a return, or would you invest in maybe other landscaping that could help in that regard. That's going to give it low maintenance but be attractive to a potential buyer. Because you did teach me last time we spoke, always build with the thought that you're one day going to sell, even if you think it's going to be the forever home.
I think yard, the most important thing with yard is that you've got some flat usable area.
Yeah.
So sometimes we sell an acreage or it's like this, like thousands of square metres. But unless it's flat usable area, the buyer doesn't really calculate that as major benefit. So in Queensland, in Brisbane for example, a lot of it is some slopey.
Yeah.
So my recommendation with yard space, always think how much usable area can you create, how much flat area can you create.
Yeah, and that's going to give the value to a family home potentially.
Definitely,
because it's usable. Yeah.
So whether there's room to kick a ball, whether there's it's like a decking area, where there's a covered pergola, for example. Pool can be great, especially in the warm area. But then again, like I said, do your research. See what a double-storey family home sells for compared to what it was purchased for, compared to what the renovation will cost, and then check out the ones with pools. So sometimes creating that lifestyle benefit can take you from a 900 to a million to a 1.1, 1.2.
Would you recommend someone in that situation, even though they're planning to build, they're probably engaging people like architects, builders, etc. Is it worthwhile bringing in a real estate expert like yourself to say, hey, look, even though we're not going to sell at the moment, we'll pay you whatever it is for their hourly rate to come and give us some thoughts on that, because they might know the suburb? Is that worthwhile? Yeah.
Definitely. And generally you don't even have to pay for that. You just encourage someone to come out, have a chat with them, let them know that in the future they'll potentially be doing something and they want to get it right from the outset.
And how do you find that right real estate person these days? Is it word of mouth?
In my opinion, it's always, especially in Adelaide, it's a large country town.
Yeah.
It's word of mouth.
Word of mouth. But in a place like Gold Coast,
Gold Coast might be different, but then again, always talk to people you know that have maybe been in the game or the business and see if they've had any personal interaction with someone or experience. And then beyond that, always do your research on potentially the internet, or maybe go to an open inspection and see how you're treated.
Good.
But you can't beat personal word of mouth.
Okay. Well, I think there's some good advice there for that couple.
Cool.
Another question came out of Brighton in Sydney, which is a suburb that's not far from the airport, near Mascot. And from what I know of Brighton, been there many times, it's a fairly well established area. I think a lot of old ethnic families were established there back in the day. And the couple inherited a house. Parents passed away, got the house, got the property. They have decided they've moved in there, living there, they own it outright. So they've got no mortgage payments, which is a nice position to be in. Have decided now they want the next dream home, and worked out with their budget, if they want the home they want, they're now going to be shifting sort of another 20-30k away from that Sydney radius, which from what they've indicated they want to stay close in that proximity. So the talk is now, do they knock down that place, they've got the land, and just build afresh and use that money there instead of buying something that is going to be a house and land package but way further away, and potentially if you're closer to the city, it's the greater value, I'm assuming, with homes. Is that right?
Definitely. Your land value is the most important factor.
And a place like Sydney, it's the most expensive city in the country,
and
in the world.
I don't think it's going to go backwards. I mean, it has
slightly,
but long term, in a 20-year forecast, I don't think backwards is where it's headed. I think forwards is where it will be.
So you suggest that that's where they'd spend their money in going, if they can, with the council, etc.
Potentially, if they can. If you've got a great parcel of land in a great location, that will always be a great parcel of land in a great location. So what you put on it, the dirt is the majority of the cost, basically.
So
what you put on it is always going to survive in a great area.
Yeah.
So if you're in Toorak Gardens in Adelaide, for example, and someone says, do I do something there long term? Yes, you can, because you can always recoup the value.
Yeah.
But obviously, their benefit is that they've acquired an old property on a block of land, so maybe they do have some ability to fund a new build. But a lot of times, someone doesn't. You have to compromise if you want to be in a better area with a budget in mind. Maybe sometimes you have to be in the lesser quality home to be in the better area.
Yeah.
Or you have to move further away to get the better quality home in a lesser area.
Correct. But in this situation, it sounds like they've got the ability, like I said, they own it outright, so the money they would spend in that house and land package, which I'm assuming would be upwards of 400-500k, that would then come back and
put it into the existing building, definitely, or in the existing area. And you know what, the growth in that better area will be better than the growth in the lesser area.
And that seems to be a trend that I'm hearing about. I remember reading the Financial Review not long ago. There was a trend in cities like Melbourne and Sydney now where people have realised, hey, we've been saving, want to buy something else, but even if they still got part mortgage, they're better off a knockdown and rebuilding on that land instead of moving further away to get the house they want, because of the uncertainty. And as you said, closer to where you are, the more established suburb, you're always going to get that better value.
Yeah, you can't beat blue chip, and and the runs are on the board in those areas. So you can speculate outside of those areas, but sometimes they're a little bit up, and then at some point they're possibly down because people are saying, hey, that's not the hotspot anymore, this is.
Do you think, from what you've seen over the years with established areas, if you're going to do that, would you, like, the eyesore might be that you're in, you could be between two older places and you build this nice new joint, and then is it an eyesore in the street, or do you think that actually starts to lift the profile and other people in the street might start to do the same over the years?
It can. You see one build in the street, and then before you know it, there's two more going up because it gives the rest of the street confidence. Not just the rest of the street, but it gives the rest of the buyers entering into that location confidence that, hey, I can buy that house because look what they've done.
Yeah.
And then the next person says, yes, I can buy that house because those two have, and then before you know it, the street starts transforming. But it takes one or two people to give the rest of the people outside coming in some confidence to do what they need to do.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's probably, I would have thought, if I was in that situation when I saw that question, definitely I wouldn't want to move further away. I'd want to sort of stay there, build what you want, and hope that the next generation of renovators and valuers will come, or builders will come through and do the same thing.
Definitely take advantage of some good fortune.
Good. The final question I had today was, we had a couple in Melbourne at Heidelberg. They've been putting money aside. They've been keen on getting into the property market and to buy a property and flip it. Have been all over these programs over the last few years of what they've seen on TV. Keen to start doing that. Found a property, but they're concerned at the moment that now with all the news of the last month with Sydney and Melbourne markets starting to slightly drop off and cool off a bit, that this might not be the period to then go and start doing some major renovations and a flip, and will they get that return with the uncertainty that's sort of in the media at the moment in the eastern states. What do you do in a situation like that? Or what advice would you give to those? Because, if it's the first time you're doing it, you're not experienced, you're going to be sort of dropping a lot of savings on that, and it could either work for you or it could really backfire and put you back a couple steps.
When there's uncertainty, sometimes people run to it and take the opportunity, and a lot of people run away from the uncertainty. So I guess you've got to do a lot of research. You've got to find out that product that you have as is compared to what you're going to spend on it. Where is it going to end up? But I guess in a climbing market, you've got a safety net, because whatever it is going to be more than what it was.
So if they've bought this property and obviously sitting on it, what are their options if there's that uncertainty now over the next 12 to 15 months? With 2019, I think there's been talk in the US about another GFC that could be coming, and when America sneezes, we end up with a flu over here. Is that going to rattle off all this stuff with the banks that's going on straight at the moment? What would be some things that this couple should think about maybe in that next period if they actually own it before they dive into that flip?
Again, assess the time that when it will be going on the market, whether it be ready in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, and then try and forecast ahead. But if there's uncertainty and feel uncomfortable and you don't want to take a risk,
just rent it out.
Rent it out. Put a tenant in there for 12 months.
Making
assess the market later, or watch and see and take note, and see if we are impacted or whether we're not impacted as much as what people thought.
Yeah. And
everything settles and goes back to normal.
So for them, if they put some tenants in there, they would sort of rent it out for a year or so, they know exactly what they've got to do with it, they can keep an eye on everything else. That also gives them time to start really planning what that flipper project, a bit more time to plan that flipper project, look into the area of where they're at.
Correct. And not only that, I think sometimes when you're forecasting 6 months or 12 months away from doing a renovation, planning is good, it's one thing, but also try and find products. If you know you're going to be using tiles, if you know you're going to be using timber or for floorboards, if you know you're going to be plaster or whatever it might be, get your gas heater, get your tiles, get everything that's in a good value, and pop them away for a little bit.
Okay.
So try and find something that was $60 a square metre for tiling.
That's great advice. Yeah.
Buy it at $18.95 on major sale.
And park it, yeah.
And park it. You need 60 square metres. They used to have 6,000 square metres, and there's 60 square metres left. And most places maybe need 150 square metres minimum. Grab the 60 square metres at 1/3 of the cost.
Yeah.
And start popping it away.
And that's the major saving for any flipping project there, because that's
big savings.
Yeah.
You know, buy your gas heater in summer.
Yeah.
You know, do your pool stuff in winter. You know, try and do things that can save you money.
A lot of people don't always go that way because they're rushing into that renovation or they're rushing into that flipping project, and they don't give themselves that time. But if you have got a situation like this where it's an investment, utilise the time. That's great advice, because I would never have thought of actually looking to buy a gas heater in the summer. But I dare say there'd be a lot of retailers out there that give you a great deal on that, trying to clear stuff out.
Even with your air conditioning, for example, there's a better deal to be done with your air conditioning in winter than there is in summer, because everyone's dying with the heat. Whereas in winter, you get away, you pop an extra blanket on.
Yeah.
But in summer, you can take off all your clothes and still be boiling.
Yeah.
So you do need that aircon.
Okay.
So, you know, winter you should be sourcing your aircon, for example.
Yeah,
so smart moves. You know, jump on websites, Gumtree or whatever it might be, and try to source stuff that
they're the savers.
Where people have built a $1 million house, and their leftovers are on the market. You don't need $1 million house; you just need some leftovers.
What are your thoughts when you are doing those flipping jobs or a renovation, even if it is for your own house you want to live in and stay in? And do people realise the value they've got in some of the items that you might consider as waste or junk, but a salvage yard or someone else can take from you and you can make some good cash out of it?
Definitely. I know some people that run around and pick up, you know, stuff all the time that's literally for free. People are getting rid of it. Like a timber kitchen that might have been worth $30,000, you know, 10 years ago, that someone is getting rid of, and for $500 they took it away. And they literally take it out, assemble it in a new place, and you would assume that it's a $15,000 kitchen with stone bench tops.
Yeah, right. So there's always some, you know, what might be considered your junk could be value for someone else, and so things like Gumtree, Facebook now, Market, I think is the other one that I know my wife's on all the time looking at stuff. It's an ideal place to.
Definitely. I've got an individual that I know has a number of rental properties, and he has literally been every 6 months renovating the rentals, and he does it on people's what he calls treasure that they've called junk.
Fantastic. What is the piece of advice you give to renovators, Alexi, that they should be looking at when they are going into renovation? Because, I mean, obviously, like you said earlier, they might not engage you for selling the property, but they might want just your advice because you want to make sure they're going to get the best value out of that. Are there 2 or 3 things that you'd give some thoughts or people advice on what they should be really focusing on with that renovation period? And you know, we keep talking about planning from our end. Like, people tend to look at it and they want to start in a month's time instead of it's that 12-month out and know. But what is it from your end with the real estate mind?
In my opinion, you've got to plan it well before you buy it. So if you're going to buy something to renovate, you should be planning that purchase a long time before you buy it. So if you take 6 months to plan what you're going to be buying, it'll save you 6 months after of headaches of whether it can or can't be suitable for what you want to do. But you need to get some advice. You need to get your builder to have a look at it. You might need to get an engineer. You might need to look at
professional trades,
getting an agent or a carpenter or whoever it might be. Get as much information as you can so that you know that you're armed and ready when you find something, and then you know exactly what you're looking for.
And if you own the house but you want to renovate and just have the addition, like, again, plan out sort of 4 or 5 figure sums.
get some advice first.
Yeah.
A lot of people sometimes ask me, they say, I've got this home here and we've acquired it, or we've been in it for 20 years or whatever it might be, and they think that needs to be the place that they do that next phase with. Sometimes the house is not suitable for it. It's a land value site, it can be subdivided into 2 or 4. It's not the place to renovate.
Yeah, okay.
You should be selling that because the land value is worth way more than the build.
Yeah.
No matter what you do with that build, the land component is the crucial component.
And that's where a real estate person is going to assist you in that. But in terms of, I had a situation recently where someone rang me, and I really didn't know how to answer them. I put them onto a roofing guy, but they said, we're going to extend, we've got an existing roof tile roof, but the extension we'd like to have in colour bond roof. And we're worried that the colour bond is going to devalue the look of the home, and we're thinking of taking all the roof tiles off. There's a perception about that, and I'm not sure if that actually is a concern. But what's your opinion on that with roofing? Because it is it's the big space that you're going to see from the street. Are clay tiles going to give the perception of a greater value or a more expensive home over colour bond? Depends on it.
It depends on the property, to be honest,
Yeah.
and depends on the condition and the style. You can easily paint over some, cement concrete in roof tiles, or you can put the colour bond on there, which is nice and fresh and neutral. But again, it depends on the property. If it's in good order, you can run with it. If it's not in great order, then you might need to address it.
Do you think people are afraid to ask for advice or get advice? I think they might be asking a silly question, or they just go and say, I was going to watch that show on TV and all the answers are there. So they get on forums, and I know that that's a source of information on a forum, but my worry when I see some of the stuff on forums, and even some of these Facebook groups, is the unqualified information that comes out. Then I'm going, shit, this looks really dangerous, that you're getting a bit of plumbing and bathroom renovation advice from someone who's renovated it instead of actually asking a renovator or a bathroom specialist. What is it with the public that?
I guess the scary part is, to a degree, that the consumer doesn't always know who to trust. So, and sometimes they're so busy and they've got their thoughts and their mindset, and they've watched their shows and they think, that's what I want to do and I don't want to be influenced any differently. So I guess sometimes you do have to get some advice from someone you trust, but again, that's word of mouth. Ask around, ask opinions of people that have received advice or have done projects, and see what they did. Find out who they used. Ask them who they ask questions of.
Yeah, I mean, with our go-to service, we've always got the pros ensuring that they actually know which questions to ask to find that right professional, which is a key. We see a lot of the time where people also sometimes are scared to share. Like when you actually delve into the discussion, they haven't shared their vision with that professional. So they call you out, or they'll call a builder out, or a roofer, or a renovator, and they're scared to really share, this is the look I want, and they start just talking about price and I want tiles that do this. Should they be really giving you that, this is my vision board, this is what I'd really the dream home, and then you can actually, because sometimes they might not want to hear what they've got to hear, but that's the only way of actually engaging someone that you can trust, and then both parties know exactly up front what's going on.
Put it all on the table. There's only one way you can advise someone, is if you know all the facts. If you don't know all the facts, then the advice is misguided, because you don't know whether you're telling them this or that.
Yeah.
But you put everything on the table, then someone can say, hey, you know what, that look is a $2 million look, but I can do that for $1 million if you did X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So there might be cost savings that you can still get a similar look with that aren't so expensive, because those magazines.
Yeah, that's right. Don't always show you what's around, like you said, in the area, the surrounding area. Now you overcapitalising, etc., etc.
But even the magazine of the baths and the marble and the open plan and the staircase with no runner, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So to create that look and sometimes in a renovation, won't be cost beneficial.
Yeah.
But can you create a similar look without going to that expense?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
And that professional you engage, you might pay a little bit up front, but it's going to save you thousands, because trying to get advice midway through a renovation that's not going to plan is going to cost you a lot of money. And unfortunately, we've heard a lot of those horror stories, and trying to give people that understanding, like you said before, plan it out know exactly what it is beforehand, and then you can stick to a budget.
Yep. Get it right from the start.
Alexi, it's been really good talking to you. If any of you are in Adelaide, you've got Alexi at Refine Real Estate to find. Otherwise, there's a lot of good content and gems in there shared for anyone around the country on those stories and questions that came in from our followers out there. Alexi, thank you very much.
Nice.
All right, we'll see you again.
Good to see you.